A stranger stood on my porch in the middle of a violent storm. Blood dripped from his arm. His dark eyes stared through the glass like he could see my soul. And then he said my name. A name I had never told him. Behind him, two black SUVs crept through the trees toward my cabin, headlights cutting through the rain like predators hunting prey. I had come to this remote Oregon cabin to escape my abusive ex-husband, to disappear, to heal. I thought I was finally safe. I was wrong. In the next 60 seconds, I would make a choice that would change everything. Let him in and risk my life. Leave him out there and watch him die. What I did not know was that this wounded stranger would become the most dangerous man I had ever met. And he would also become the one who taught me what real love looks like. This is my story, a story of betrayal, survival, and unexpected redemption. This story will show you that sometimes the scariest decision leads to the greatest healing. That strength is not about avoiding danger, it is about facing it and choosing yourself anyway. If you have ever felt trapped, invisible, or powerless, stay until the end. This one is for you. Now let me take you back to the beginning. After 21 days, sunlight on the floorboards became my clock. After 21 days, sunlight on the floorboards became my clock. This quiet pattern was a relief after 7 years of suffocating change. I left a perfect city apartment for this cabin, a place that smelled of pine and well water. I married Richard because I wanted a safe, stable life. He was a polished man who ordered wine with confidence while I struggled with the menu. Power, I thought, could protect me. I was 25 then, and I mistook his control for leadership. 7 years later, at 32, anxiety had worn me down. I was thin, tired, and my hair had lost its shine. The judge's stamp on our divorce papers made a dull sound. But I had a secret. $8,000 in an account he never knew about. It was not a plan, just a quiet instinct to save something for myself in case the world caved in. It finally did. He told me over breakfast he never loved me. His voice was flat, without regret. I drove to the bank that day on pure instinct. $8,000. It was not a future, but it was enough to buy time. This cabin was a desperate memory, a place my grandfather built in the Oregon hills. I had not been here since I was a child. The satellite image showed only trees and a gravel road leading into them. The isolation was the entire point. The 2-hour drive from the city felt like shedding a skin. When the last bar of my phone signal disappeared, my stomach tightened, but I did not stop. The cabin was smaller than I remembered, the paint gone, a window cracked, the porch sagged. Yet it was still standing, stubborn against the sky. It felt like a version of myself left to face the weather. That first week was about simple survival. Learning the well pump and the wood stove. My hands, once soft, became rough and calloused. By the second week, the silence felt less like a threat. I drove to the town of Maple Ridge twice a week for supplies. The locals watched me with open curiosity. I paid with cash and avoided questions about the city. Richard never called. The silence from him should have felt like freedom. Instead, it just left a hollow space inside my chest. By the third week, I had a routine. I woke up, made coffee, and spent the afternoons fixing small things around the cabin. A crooked cabinet door, a loose floorboard. I ate simple meals of beans and rice. It was not an exciting life, but it was mine. No one judged what I wore or how I organized the shelves. There was no internet. There were no emails to answer. No expectations. The storm arrived that afternoon. The sky turned a flat, colorless gray. The wind hissed through the trees, making the hair on my arms stand up. The forest seemed to be holding its breath. The weather radio warned of heavy rain and strong winds. I knew I was not going anywhere. By the time darkness fell, the clouds had consumed everything. I brought extra wood inside. The first drops of rain hit the roof, then became a steady drum. I checked the windows and made sure the tape on the cracked one was holding. I made tea, a small, controllable act in the middle of the growing storm. The wind rattled the glass, Lightning flashed and thunder shook the entire cabin, sending dust down from the rafters. The power died with a quiet pop. I was left with the orange glow of the wood stove. I checked my phone from habit, knowing there was no signal. Then, between claps of thunder, someone knocked. It was not a soft, questioning sound. It was 3 solid blows against the front door. The vibrations went right through the floor. I froze. The entire point of this place was that no one ever came here. The knock came again, just as firm. My heart pounded. I told the empty room to think. My grandfather's shotgun was in the corner. I had found it wrapped in cloth and cleaned it, just in case. I reached for it, then pulled my hand back. Opening the door with a weapon felt like a dangerous choice. Another knock, even harder this time. I walked to the door and put my hand on the lock, hesitating. My logical mind laid out the possibilities. It could be a park ranger or a police officer checking on a remote cabin during a storm. It could be a lost driver with a broken-down car, or it could be something much worse. I found my voice, though it sounded weak. "Who is it?" The storm swallowed any reply. Then a man's voice cut through the wind. It was deep and steady, not yelling but easy to hear. "My name is Luca. I need help. Please open the door." I stared at the door, trying to see the truth in the wood grain. The name was unfamiliar, but his calm tone was not. It should have been reassuring. It was not. I imagined how a man could use a calm voice as a weapon. Another flash of lightning lit up the small window in the door. I stood on my toes to look through the distorted glass. He stood on the porch, his back to the rain. One hand rested on the doorframe. He was tall, his shoulders filling the doorway. Dark hair was stuck to his forehead. His suit jacket was soaked, clinging to a well-built frame. A gold chain shone at his neck where his shirt was unbuttoned. His black clothes were simple otherwise. The porch light made his skin look pale, like someone who spent too much time indoors. His jaw was sharp and clean-shaven. His face was almost too perfect. But his eyes stopped my breath. Through the wet glass, I could see they were dark brown and focused, as if he could see me right through the door. His stare made me feel completely exposed. There was a dark spot on his right sleeve spreading from his upper arm. It was not a rain stain, it was something thicker. My mind took a moment to name it. Blood. He tilted his head, as if he felt my presence behind the door. For a second our eyes met. "I know you're there," he said gently. I saw the light. Of course he did. I had left the lantern on the table, which I thought was far enough from the window. My hand gripped the cold metal of the deadbolt. This was crazy. Letting in a stranger while I was alone and unarmed was a classic horror story opening. But turning away an injured man in a storm felt like another kind of wrong. Then headlights appeared between the trees. 2 sets of them, moving slowly up the dirt road toward my cabin. My breathing stopped. The vehicles were large, dark shapes, like trucks or sport utility vehicles. They were the kind of thing you never want to see in the middle of nowhere. The man on my porch turned to look at them. His calm vanished. He grew even more tense. "They're closer than I thought," he said. His voice was flat now. "You don't have time to think, Vivian. Open the door." Hearing my name from him was a shock. I had not told him my name. I was certain of it. My fingers fumbled with the lock. "How do you know my name?" "We can talk about that later," he said sharply. "Right now you let me in, and we both might survive. Or you leave me out here and see if they knock after they finish with me." He paused. "You do not want them at your door." He looked back at the approaching headlights. The storm hid the sound of their engines, but I felt the vibration in the floorboards. Every instinct told me this man was dangerous. His confidence and the way he said my name were clear warnings. But the danger in the driveway felt much bigger. At least this man knocked. I threw the deadbolt. The swollen door resisted for a moment, then opened with a groan. Cold wind and rain rushed inside, hitting my face. He seemed even larger up close. He did not wait for me to invite him in. He moved smoothly across the threshold before I could reconsider. "Lock it," he said. It was a command. With the headlights now sweeping across the clearing, I obeyed. I slammed the door, twisted the lock, and leaned against it. He walked past me, his eyes quickly taking in the single room, the back door, and the trap door leading to the cellar. "Is this everything?" he asked. "What?" I was still thinking about how he knew my name. "Entrances and exits." His eyes stopped on the trap door. "And that?" "There is a back door," I said, "but it is hard to open. The cellar is just for storage. Tonight, it is for hiding." He pulled off his jacket, flinching as it rubbed against his injured arm. His wet white shirt clung to his muscular body. The blood had soaked through. It seemed to be a graze, but I could not be sure. "Do you have anyone with you?" I asked, looking toward the window. The first truck's engine had just cut out. "If I did," he said, "we would not be here." He threw his jacket on a chair, staying away from the front window. "Do you live here alone?" The question was too direct. I crossed my arms, suddenly aware of how little I was wearing. "Why?" "Because if you say no, and I hear another man's voice, I will treat him as a threat." "There is no one else," I said. "Just me." He relaxed slightly and nodded. "Good. Fewer things to worry about." Headlights swept across the cabin again. He moved with the light, keeping to the shadows. He guided me to a darker wall near the kitchen. "Stay away from the glass," he whispered. "If they think it is empty, they might leave." "Who are they?" I whispered back. "Men who tried to kill me 20 minutes ago," he said, his jaw tight. "I do not want to give them another chance." His words made everything horribly real. This man was bleeding in my home because someone had just tried to murder him. He glanced at his arm. "It looks worse than it is." His eyes met mine. "We can discuss who deserves to be saved after the men with guns are gone." Outside, a car door slammed shut, then another. Then the clear, metallic click of a weapon being prepared cut through the storm. I felt the warmth leave my face. "What do they want?" I asked, though I knew the answer was standing next to me. "Me," he said simply. "And anyone who helps me." He nodded toward the trap door. "Cellar. Now." He spoke in a low voice. "If they knock, you will answer. You will tell them you have not seen anyone. That will be easier to believe if I am not bleeding right behind you." Panic rose in my throat, but the thought of those men outside was worse. I walked to the trapdoor, pulled the iron ring, and lifted. The heavy door groaned open. Cool, damp air smelled of earth and old wood. "There is not much room," I said. He replied, "I have fit into worse." He moved past me, descending the wooden steps in silence. Halfway down, he paused and looked back. "Vivian," he said my name gently. I gripped the edge of the trap door. "How do you know who I am?" His eyes went to the divorce papers on the table. My name was printed on every page. "You are not as invisible as you think," he said. "Lock the door after me. If they come, answer it. You will be safer if they believe you are alone. What if they do not believe me? Then stall." His mouth formed something that was not quite a smile. "I will handle the rest." A man this calm should have been terrifying, but fear only wanted a plan. He disappeared into the cellar darkness. I eased the door back into place and shoved a rug over it with my foot. My heart hammered against my ribs. A fist slammed against the front door, harder than before. It was a demanding sound. I forced myself to walk over and answer. I was alone. 2 weeks crawled by before I saw him again. 2 weeks of jumping at every sound the old cabin made. The storm had ended hours after he left. That morning, I had stood on the porch, watching the mist rise, trying to believe the night had been real. I thought it might have been a fever dream, but the blood on the floorboards told a different story. I had scrubbed it with soap and cold water until it vanished into the wood. I still saw the phantom mark every time I passed that spot. He had left before dawn. I fell asleep after the men had pounded on my door, their flashlights cutting through the windows. I lied to them. I told them I was alone and had seen no one. They did not say if they were officers. They just told me to lock my doors before their engines rumbled away into the rain. When I finally opened the trap door, the cellar was empty. There was only the faint smell of copper. He had left a business card on the step. It showed just a phone number, nothing else. I put it in my pocket and promised myself I would not use it. My savings of $8,000 started to feel like a countdown. Groceries and generator gas were expensive. Every trip to town chipped away at my safety. I began buying the cheaper, dented cans from the discount shelf. In the second week, I froze in the middle of the grocery store parking lot. 3 men stood by my truck. They were not touching it, just standing close enough to be a warning. They did not look like locals. One leaned against the tailgate. Another stood by the driver's side door. The third watched the store entrance, waiting for me. My pulse raced, but I kept walking, clutching my keys. "Vivian Harper," the man by the tailgate said as I got close. He said my name like a fact. I stopped 3 feet away. "Do I know you?" "Not yet." He pushed off the truck. "But you know someone we are looking for. Tall guy, bleeding when you saw him." The lie came easily. "I do not know what you are talking about." "Sure you do not." His smile was cold. "You live alone out in those woods. That is a long way from help." The threat was obvious. The man by my door shifted, and I saw a weapon in his waistband. Before I could run, a black sport utility vehicle pulled into the lot. It stopped 10 feet away. 2 men got out. They were different. They wore sharp suits and had emotionless faces. One walked toward the man at my tailgate. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice flat, "I think you are in the wrong parking lot." The man's casual posture disappeared. "We are just having a conversation." "No, you were just leaving." The air grew heavy with tension. Then, the man at the tailgate raised his hands and stepped back. "Tell your boss we will be seeing him soon," he said, his eyes locked on me. Then he and the others left in a gray sedan. I stood frozen, my hands trembling. The 2 men in suits stayed beside me. "You are Vivian Harper," the closer one said. It was a statement. How does everyone suddenly know my name? My fear was turning to anger. "Because you helped someone who matters," he replied. "And that made you visible." I wanted to argue. I had only opened a door to a wounded man. Now, my adrenaline was fading, leaving only exhaustion. "What do you want?" "To make sure you get home safely." He gestured to my truck. "We will follow. You will not see us, but we will be there." "I do not need it." "With respect, ma'am, you do." "Those men will be back," he said. Mr. Brennan wanted to ensure that did not happen. "Mr. Brennan!" The name was unfamiliar, but it carried the sound of authority. "Luca," I said quietly. The man's mouth twitched. "He will be by tonight to explain. For now, go home. Lock your doors. We will handle the perimeter." He returned to his vehicle. The drive back felt different. I checked my mirror constantly. I never saw the sport utility vehicle, but I felt its presence, a protective shadow. The feeling was not invasive. It was the first real breath I had taken in days. The sun was setting as I arrived at the cabin. I unloaded the groceries on autopilot, my mind still on the threat from the parking lot. I was putting milk in the refrigerator when I heard a smooth, controlled engine. A black sedan stopped outside. The driver's door opened, and Luca Brennan stepped out. In the daylight, he no longer looked like a desperate man. He looked like someone in a perfectly tailored suit who had simply come for a visit. His jacket was open, revealing a black shirt. A gold chain glinted at his neck in the dim light. His dark hair was a little long, touching his collar. This time, he was not bleeding. He looked like a man with enough power to own the entire mountain. He approached the porch without knocking and simply waited, his hands in his pockets. I opened the door. "You never called," he said instead of hello. I was speechless, crossing my arms to keep them steady. He almost smiled. "It would have been memorable," he noted. "Can I come in?" I moved out of his way. He walked inside, his presence making the small cabin feel even smaller. His gaze swept the room, pausing on the clean spot where the blood had been. He also saw the pile of divorce papers on the table. You arrived 3 weeks ago, he stated. I closed the door, leaving it unlocked. It felt safer that way. How did you know? I asked. He listed public records and my truck's license plate. He turned to me. You are not as hidden as you believe, Vivian. You are new here, and you are alone. People notice? Or you notice? I asked. Both, he said without apology. I need to know who is near my territory. You seem to be running from something. I was not running, I insisted. I was leaving. There is a difference. He studied my face, and I felt like he could see right through me. You left your life, cut all ties, and came here with no real plan. That is running, Vivian. His words were true, and they hurt. I looked away from him. Why are you here? Because 3 men cornered you today, he said plainly. And more will come, unless they know you belong to me. I never asked for your help. No, but you opened your door in a storm. His right arm was stiff, I now realized. That bullet wound created a debt. I do not want to owe you, I told him. You owe me nothing, he replied. The men from that night work for Vincent Grayson. He is a rival from Seattle. He tried to have me killed 2 weeks ago, but it did not work. But now he knows someone helped me that night. He spent weeks searching for that person. My stomach tightened. How? One of his men saw my car on this road. They figured it out. Grayson is not a man who leaves problems unsolved, he continued. If he links you to me, he will use you to hurt me. What does that mean? It means your cabin burns with you inside it. The words stole my breath, and I sat down hard on the couch. What am I supposed to do? Leave? Go back to what, exactly? My old life was gone. No, Luca said. You will stay, and I will install security. Cameras and my men will watch the property. Grayson's people will not touch you if I have claimed you. Claimed me, I repeated. Like an object. Like my ward, he corrected. Is there a difference? I asked, using his own words. Yes, he said. Property is something I own. You are someone I am choosing to protect. I am sorry if this bothers you, but it is happening. I wanted to fight him. I came here to be free from men making choices for me. But then I remembered the men from the parking lot. Their voices, their threats. How long? I finally asked. Until Grayson is no longer a problem, he said it so calmly. So I will just live with guards outside my window. You will live knowing they have to get through me first. He moved closer. I had to look up to meet his gaze. I am not your ex-husband, Vivian. I do not want to control you. I want to keep you alive. How do you know about Richard? This is a small town, he repeated. You also have a certain look. What look? The kind people get when they have been silenced for so long they forget their own voice. His expression softened. I have seen it before. It is why you ran instead of fighting him in court. I looked at the floor, unable to deny it. I just want to be left alone. I know, he said, stepping back. But alone is not safe for you right now. I had very little money left. Winter was on its way. I did not know how to fight men like that. What must I do? I asked. Just stay put, he said. Do not run. And he almost smiled again. Also, try not to shoot my men when they install the cameras tomorrow. I have no bullets, I admitted. I will have some sent over. He walked to the door. They will be here in the morning. You will not see them much, but they will be there. Call the number I gave you if anyone comes near. Someone will arrive in minutes. And if I refuse? His dark eyes met mine. Then I will leave. But those men will still find you, Vivian. And I might not learn about it in time. He left. I sat on the couch for a very long time, listening to the silence. The cabin felt empty now. The next day, 2 men came in a plain gray truck. They worked quickly and quietly, installing small cameras on the cabin and sensors near the trees. They showed me the system on a tablet and were gone in 2 hours. I tried to ignore the feeling of being watched. That tiny blinking light on the camera felt like a cage, but as the sun went down, it also felt like the only thing keeping me safe. For the first time in weeks, I slept soundly. 3 days later, Luca appeared at dusk. He brought a bag of groceries, far more than I could afford. "I know you did not ask," he said, placing it on my counter. "My people told me you were low on food." Instead of feeling angry about being watched, I felt a wave of gratitude. I quietly said thank you. He hesitated in the doorway, so I pulled out 2 mugs. "Coffee?" "Yes," he answered. We sat on the porch steps, the mugs warming our hands as the sun went down. The silence between us was not awkward. It felt comfortable, like we had known each other for a long time. I eventually asked him a question. "How old were you when you took over your family's business?" He looked at me with a flicker of something in his eyes. 25. My father was killed during a bad deal. He said it was a long time ago. My mother passed when I was 16, so it was just me and my sister. Someone had to take charge. That is a heavy burden for a 25-year-old. It was heavier for a 16-year-old, he replied, but you grow up quickly when you have no other choice. I remembered being 25. I thought a good job and a stable relationship meant I had everything figured out. He then asked me, "What did you sacrifice to be the perfect wife?" The question caught me off guard. "My career," I confessed. "I was an accountant with a job waiting for me. Richard said my work was not necessary. He wanted my support for his own ambitions. I wanted to believe him. I wanted someone else to handle everything. But giving away control does not make you safe. It only makes you smaller." Lucas stared at the trees for a moment. "You are not small now," he said. "No," I answered. "You are rebuilding," he corrected. "There is a difference." I saw recognition in his eyes, not pity. He understood what it felt like to start over from nothing. "Why do you care about me?" I asked. "I know you stood your ground when it was important," he said. "That means something." His phone vibrated. He checked the screen and his face hardened. "I have to leave," he said as he stood up. "But I will return." "When?" "Soon." He stopped at the bottom of the steps. "Lock your doors, Vivian. Call if anything seems wrong." Then he disappeared into the darkness. I stayed on the porch, my coffee now cold, wondering how to become whole again. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Luca delivered it himself, his presence making my small cabin feel even smaller. A month had passed since Richard's visit. A month since I saw real fear in my husband's eyes. At first, my victory felt empty because I needed help. But over the last few weeks, that feeling changed. The cabin was no longer a prison, it was a choice. Luca had come to see me 3 more times that month. We fell into a comfortable routine of coffee and conversation. He spoke about a business where loyalty was everything. I spoke about finding the person I was before Richard. There was a clear attraction between us, a current under every word. But he always kept a respectful distance. "I have a proposition for you," he said from my doorway. His breath was visible in the crisp autumn air. "That sounds serious," I replied, letting him inside. "It is just dinner." The scent of his cologne was dark and distracting. "I have business in Portland, and I thought you might want a night out." "Business that includes me?" "It involves my sister, actually." He turned to me, his expression earnest. "Sophia handles our legitimate operations. She has been asking to meet you." My stomach tightened. Meeting his family felt like a serious step. "Why does she want to meet me?" "Because I talk about you," he said plainly. "And Sophia is a good judge of character. She wants to see who has been occupying my thoughts." The honesty of his words hung in the air. "If I say no, then I will go by myself, and she will think you are either not real or very smart." A small smile touched his lips. "But I hope you say yes." I should have said no. Meeting his sister felt like a complication I did not need. But I was tired of being alone in the woods. A part of me wanted to see his world. "When?" I asked. "Friday. I will pick you up at 6. He was gone before I could reconsider. The next 3 days were a mix of excitement and anxiety. I finally chose a fitted emerald sweater that Richard had always hated because he said the color was too bold. Looking in the mirror on Friday evening, I saw a different woman. My hair was longer. My face was no longer pale and thin. I looked healthier. I looked like myself again. Luca arrived precisely at 6 o'clock. He stepped out of his car wearing a dark gray suit that fit him perfectly. The suit was perfect on him. It made him look dangerous, a man who did not belong on a dirt road. I told him he looked good as I came down the steps. His eyes moved over my dress, and I felt a warmth spread up my neck. He said I looked good too, and held the car door open. The drive to Portland was about 90 minutes. We made small talk about the cold weather and the old furnace in the cabin. But there was a tension between us that had nothing to do with the season. The sun was gone by the time we reached the city. The skyline was a wall of glittering lights. Luca drove through the streets easily, like he owned them. He stopped in front of a quiet, expensive-looking restaurant named Brennan's. He told me it was one of his. He said his sister Sophia believed a legitimate business provided good cover. He told me she was right. The inside was all dark wood and low voices. The menu had no prices. A hostess greeted Luca by name and led us to a private table. A woman was already sitting there. Sophia Brennan was her brother's opposite, yet exactly the same. She had lighter hair, but her eyes were just as sharp. Her focus on me felt intense, like she saw everything. She stood and offered a firm handshake. She said Luca being vague about me meant I was either very boring or very interesting. Luca told her to be polite. I told her that depended on her definition of business. Sophia's laugh was bright and genuine. She liked my careful answer. She already knew about my failed marriage and that I was hiding in the woods. She said Luca does not bring people into their world. My presence meant I was either brave or reckless. I told her maybe I was just tired of being careful. She believed that. Sophia changed the subject. She asked about my background in accounting. I told her I had kept up with the industry after I married. I could not let that part of me go. She and Luca shared a silent look. She said the restaurants needed help. She was drowning in numbers. She offered me a job, saying the last accountant stole $70,000 before they noticed. That was hardly reassuring. She promised she was much better at vetting people now. I glanced at Luca, who just shrugged. He swore he did not put her up to it, but he agreed they needed help. The offer was tempting. It was a chance to use my mind again, a part of me my ex-husband tried to destroy. I told them I would think about it. After that, dinner was surprisingly easy. Sophia asked questions that were direct but not unkind. I spoke more than I planned. I talked about my marriage, not the big fights, but the small destructions. The way Richard slowly took over my thoughts. The way making a simple choice became impossible. Leaving him was like falling without a net. Sophia listened. She said it takes courage to rebuild from that. Then she told me I was good for her brother. She said Luca had been less of a brooding nightmare since I arrived. Then she stood and went to check on the kitchen. I watched her go before turning back to Luca. I told him his sister was intense. He corrected me, saying she was protective. He said she does not make offers lightly. She asked me to work there because she trusted me. That trust, he explained, came from him. I said I did not want charity. He promised it was not. Sophia needed help and I needed a job. He promised that working for Sophia would be separate from us. The logistics would be simple. I would have an office in the city. I asked him what was happening between us. His confident mask slipped. He said he did not know yet, but he wanted to find out. Sophia came back before I could answer. She slid into her seat and asked for my decision. The smart move was to say no, to stay away from their complicated lives. But being smart had not worked out for me. I told her I would try it, just for a little while. Her smile was huge. She asked if I could start Monday, which was 3 days away. I laughed and said yes, Monday would be fine. The phone call came on a Wednesday morning. My lawyer told me Richard was fighting the settlement. He was making a claim on the cabin, twisting some obscure property law to hurt me. It was a lie. a cruel tactic designed to prove he still had power over me. The feeling of being trapped returned instantly. Luca found me an hour later, staring at my computer screen. He quietly closed the office door. "What is wrong?" he asked. My voice was flat as I explained the situation. I felt tired and small. He listened to every word without interruption. His silence was a shield, his expression turning hard as stone. "He cannot win this," Luca said when I finished. "The law is on your side." "I know," I answered, "but he can make it exhausting. He does not want the cabin. He wants me to know that he can still reach me." A dangerous quiet settled in the room. I saw a man who knew how to solve problems permanently. "Let me handle this," he said, his voice low and final. The offer was a promise of safety, and I refused it. "No, Luca. This is my fight. If you rescue me now, I will always be the woman who needs rescuing. I have to do this myself. I have to be the one who wins." The anger in his eyes softened into a look of deep respect. It was not the reaction I expected. He nodded once. "Then let me find you a lawyer who specializes in this. Someone who will not just file papers, but will crush him for you." I agreed to that. My new life had only just begun. For 2 months, I had found purpose working for his sister, Sophia. I brought order to her messy finances and felt my own mind become clear again. I was building something real. Then there was Luca. We had decided to take things slow, but our dinners and long conversations led to a kiss that changed everything. It felt like a dam breaking. We were trying to be smart, but I had started to feel a powerful hope, and now I had to fight to protect it. He hung up the phone. I had a meeting the next morning with someone who owed Luca a big favor. I thanked him. He moved closer and told me I was not weak for taking help. I was smart for knowing I needed it. 3 days later, a fire at his warehouse destroyed the peace we had built. I was at a restaurant, lost in paperwork. Sophia ran into my office. Her face was full of fear. She was on her phone. "Where?" she asked. A moment passed. "Is anyone hurt?" After a long pause, she relaxed. "Okay, I am on my way." She looked at me. "There was an incident at one of Luca's warehouses. She said she had to go. I stood up and told her I was coming with her. She said I did not need to. I insisted, grabbing my jacket. I could not just wait for a call. I had to see for myself if he was alive." Sophia looked at me, then agreed. But she told me to stay close. If she said to leave, I had to leave. The drive took 20 minutes that felt like an eternity. She drove fast and with focus, making call after call. I heard bits about insurance and police reports. When we arrived, fire trucks were everywhere. Their red and blue lights lit up the night. Smoke poured from the second floor of a huge warehouse. Firefighters moved with purpose. Luca stood near a truck, talking to a fire captain. His suit jacket was off and his sleeves were rolled up. He had soot on his jaw. He looked angry, a cold and controlled fury. He saw us approach. He seemed surprised to see me, then concerned. "What are you doing here?" he asked sharply. Sophia answered before I could. She insisted on coming. He said 2 people had minor injuries, but half their inventory was destroyed. "No one died," he said, but it was a clear message. I looked at the burning building and felt a cold dread. This was his world. "I should get you home," Luca said. "No," I answered firmly. "I am not leaving." He told me it was not safe. I pointed out that Sophia was not leaving either. "I came here knowing what this was. I am not running away." He studied my face, then slowly nodded. He told me to stay with Sophia and leave if anything felt wrong. The next few hours were a blur. Luca managed the fire officials. Sophia was on her phone, dealing with insurance. I helped where I could. I organized papers saved from the fire and took notes. Someone gave me water and a protein bar. I watched Luca work through the crisis. He was good at it. He was focused and in control. It was both impressive and scary. The fire was finally out. The sun was gone. We were under the harsh glare of work lights. Luca found me sitting on a car bumper. I was exhausted. "You should have gone home hours ago," he said softly. "I will be okay," he said when I asked. He sat beside me. He said this was not what he wanted me to see. I told him I was not naive. I knew what he did, and I was choosing to be there. He turned to me and asked why. Why choose this life when I could just walk away? The answer was simple. I told him he made me feel like myself again. I would rather be there with him, scared, than safe somewhere else. He leaned in and kissed me. It was a slow, honest kiss that tasted of smoke. He rested his forehead against mine. I do not want you to get hurt, he whispered. I told him we would be careful. I was not leaving, not unless he told me to. That will never happen, he said with total certainty. We sat together in the wreckage, choosing each other. 2 weeks later was the court date for the cabin. My lawyer was a sharp woman. She said Richard's lawsuit was just harassment. Our case should have been simple. The property deeds and inheritance papers proved the cabin was mine before the marriage. Richard arrived in a fancy suit with his lawyer. They both looked confident, like men who had never lost. I just felt tired. The judge was an older man who looked annoyed. He reviewed the documents. He asked Mr. Harper for any proof that his money had changed the property's value. Richard's lawyer had no real answer. "Do you have receipts or contracts?" the judge asked. There was only silence. The judge sighed. He asked my lawyer for proof that the property was inherited. She handed him our file. He looked it over quickly. The cabin was clearly separate property, he declared. Mr. Harper's claim has no evidence. The cabin remains the sole property of Vivian Harper. He looked straight at Richard. This is harassment. I am dismissing your claim. The judge's voice was cold and final. Dismissed with prejudice. You will pay her legal fees. The gavel crashed down, ending it all. Richard stood frozen, his lawyer already packing to leave. He looked at me, his surprise genuine, as if he thought he could bully his way to a win. I held his gaze and felt a quiet peace. My lawyer smiled outside. He won't bother you again, she said. Men like him can't stand public defeat. She gave me her card. Thank Luca for the referral. I stood alone on the steps. For the first time in 7 years, I was free. The cabin was mine. Richard had no more power over me. An hour later, Luca found me in a coffee shop. He already knew the outcome. He simply pulled me into a hug that felt like returning home. Congratulations, he whispered. I told him it felt strangely anticlimactic. You feel relieved, he said. For now, that is enough. We drove to his place in a comfortable quiet, our hands locked together. Neither of us wanted to return to the real world. In the quiet of his apartment, Luca finally spoke. Vincent Grayson is under federal investigation. He explained how the warehouse fire and some financial clues from Sofia got the attention of serious people. You helped, he corrected himself. The patterns you found in our finances pointed them in the right direction. They found evidence of money laundering and tax evasion. It was enough to put Grayson away for a very long time. So it is over? I asked. It is getting there, he said. His people were now too busy saving themselves to bother us. A wave of relief washed over me. I asked if the guards at the cabin could leave. He asked if I wanted them to. 2 months ago, their presence felt like a cage. Now it was just background noise. Not yet, I decided, but maybe soon. The quiet returned, warm and safe. Move in with me, he said, his voice soft but sure. I looked at him, surprised. He explained he did not want me to give up my space, just to share his, to build a life here. It should have felt too soon, but it felt like the only logical step. I told him I would think about it, but we both knew my answer was yes. He smiled and kissed me. This time, I did not pull away. We had been careful for long enough. 3 months after that day, Vincent Grayson's world had ended. The federal charges were overwhelming. His lawyers could not pretend he would ever be free again. His entire criminal organization fell apart. His lieutenants either made deals or they disappeared. The entire structure simply collapsed. Luca had watched it all happen, satisfied that he had won without a single violent act. His victory was built on information. I had helped find the financial clues, and his people had quietly passed them to federal agents for months. Sophia's legitimate restaurants had provided the perfect cover for the investigation. I never asked about the parts of his plan that were not clean. Some things are better unknown. 2 weeks after the arrest, Luca's security team left my cabin. I watched them drive away, and the woods fell silent again. The solitude was finally my own. But I was no longer isolated. I began spending 4 nights a week at Luca's apartment. My things slowly moved into his home. We never officially discussed it. It just happened, choice by choice, until living apart felt wrong. My work with Sophia had also grown from a temporary job into a career. The restaurants were doing very well. My bank account was now secure. It was the first time I had financial freedom that I had built myself, free from anyone else's control. I started using my weekends to truly renovate the cabin. These were not desperate fixes, but real improvements. Luca helped when he was free. He was good with tools and patient with me. One morning we argued over kitchen cabinets until we were both laughing. In that moment, I understood what a partnership was. It was not about being rescued. It was about building something together, side by side. That afternoon, Sophia called me. Her voice was tight with worry. "Vivian, where is Luca?" I told her he had meetings downtown. "What is wrong?" I asked. He was not answering his phone. One of his security men had sent her a strange text. It just said, "Sophia, immediate," and had a location attached. My blood ran cold. She gave me an address in the industrial district. "I am heading there," she said. "I am coming too," I replied, grabbing my keys. "Stay there, Vivian." But I was not going to argue. I told her to text me the address. I knew it was not smart to run toward trouble, but I could not wait safely at home while Luca was in danger. The drive to Portland was just under 2 hours, but it felt like a lifetime. My hands gripped the steering wheel. Grayson was in custody, but his world was full of enemies. The absence of one threat did not mean we were safe. I called Luca 3 times. Each call went straight to his voicemail. The address led me to a decaying office building near the water, a place that had been left to die. Sophia's car was already there. 2 black SUVs from Luca's security team were parked beside it. I pulled in and stepped into the cold, damp air. Adrian, Luca's head of security, stopped me before I reached the door. He was a solid man, former military, with a calm authority. "You should not be here," he said. "I need to see Luca." Adrian shook his head. "Mr. Brennan's orders were to keep you out." "I do not work for him," I replied. "Now you can either move, or I will go around you." After a moment, a flicker of respect showed in his eyes. He stepped aside. "Second floor," he said. "Follow the voices." I ran up the stairs, my heart pounding. The building was a skeleton inside, stripped down to studs and covered in dust. Ahead, I could hear Sophia's sharp voice cutting through the space. I rounded a corner and saw her. She was in a large, empty room, speaking quickly into her phone about wire transfers. 2 guards stood with her. In a corner, a woman I did not know was zip-tied to a metal beam. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. There was dried blood on her mouth, but her eyes were sharp and aware. "Vivian, what are you doing here?" Sophia hung up the phone, her face a mix of relief and annoyance. "I came for Luca. He is dealing with another part of this mess," she said. "He is fine." I pointed to the woman. "Who is she?" Sophia's expression hardened. "Her name is Caroline. She tried to kidnap me 2 hours ago." The words hit me, and the room felt unsteady. "She tried to what?" Sophia's hands trembled slightly. She wanted to use me as leverage against Luca. It was a very close call. I looked at Caroline's cold eyes and felt a hot rage build inside me. This woman had tried to tear our world apart. "Why?" I asked Caroline directly. She gave a slow, cruel smile. "Because men like Brennan need to be reminded they are not untouchable. Taking his sister seemed like a good way to do that." "Just ignore her," Sophia said, her voice tired. The police are coming. Then Luca appeared. He looked strained, his sleeves rolled up. His eyes found mine, filled with surprise, and then resignation. "Of course you are here," he said. I walked to him. "Are you all right?" He squeezed my hand. "I am fine. You should not have come." Adrian tried to stop me. I am sure he did. He turned to Sophia. "How are you?" "Shaken," she said. "But I am functional." "This could have been prevented," Luca said, his voice tight with blame. Sophia stopped him. "You cannot predict every desperate person seeking revenge. We handled it. Now we move on." Caroline laughed from her corner. "You think this is over? You cannot catch everyone." "I do not need to," Luca said flatly. "Just the one who came after my family." In the distance, sirens grew louder. Adrian appeared. "Police are 3 minutes out." Luca nodded. "Both of you downstairs, now." We left Caroline with the guards as the sirens screamed closer. The next hour was a blur of police questions and official statements. I stayed beside Sophia, who remained calm despite the assault. Luca managed the officers with practiced skill. By the time they let us go, night had fallen. Sophia hugged me tightly before her driver took her home. Luca and I stood alone by his car, the adrenaline gone, leaving only exhaustion behind. "Are you truly okay?" I asked him. "Physically, yes," he said. "But I am furious someone got close to Sophia. This should have been over. It should have ended with Grayson." "But it did not," I said softly. "Caroline was the last one, was she not? The final, desperate move." He did not seem convinced. "Luca," I said, "you cannot control everything. All you can do is protect the people you love when it happens. You did that today." He pulled me into a hug, holding on tight. "We are both too stubborn to make it easy for them," I whispered. "Let us go home." The drive was silent. We were both too tired for words. At his apartment, he showered while I changed into clothes I kept there. He came out and sat beside me on the couch. We sat in the quiet as the city lights glowed outside. "Sophia wants to open a restaurant in Seattle," he said after a while. "A bigger one. She asked if you would handle the business side." "That is a huge step," I said. "It means more time here, less time at the cabin," he noted. "I told her you would think about it. It is your decision." I leaned against him. "I will think about it. The cabin is important, but so are you." "We will figure it out," he said quietly. "We will make them both work." 6 months later, I stood in my finished cabin, the renovation complete. It was my sanctuary. But it was no longer my only home. The Seattle restaurant was a success, and my life had grown to include both worlds. I had launched the new business, working 100-hour weeks. I was now a partner and the chief financial officer. Luca and I built a life together. We did not talk about forever, we just existed, making one good decision at a time. He traveled, and I sometimes went with him. Other times, I stayed home, managing the restaurants or escaping to my cabin. Sophia became a true friend. She was more than just my partner. She would call late at night to discuss menus or just show up at the cabin to talk. Sophia had been right about one thing. They were my shield. They gave me a quiet place to recover from what he had done. I locked the cabin, checking the handle twice from old fear. Luca waited by the car. We were driving into the city for Sophia's birthday, but this was no simple party. This was about proving that true power is meant to protect the weak. "Are you ready for this?" he asked when I got in. The question hung in the air. I thought about the fear, the lonely nights, the exhaustion of starting my entire life over from ash. The system had protected him. It had failed me and so many others before me. But now I had Luca. He was not a gentle man, but his dangerous strength was aimed away from me. It was aimed at them. "Yeah," I said, my voice solid. "I really am." He reached for my hand. His smile was a silent promise. Justice was coming. The city lights appeared ahead, a signal that the fight was near. He was there, wrapped in his stolen power, but tonight his protection would be stripped away. Behind us, the mountains held my cabin. It was the safe place I could return to. It was the life I had earned back. Remember this: you do not need someone to rescue you. You need someone who stands beside you while you rescue yourself. Vivian rebuilt her life not because Luca saved her, but because she saved herself first. The right person does not complete you. They protect the completeness you already built. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and leave a comment telling me what moment hit you the hardest. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. And if you have not subscribed yet, join our family so you never miss another powerful story like this one. Thank you for staying until the end. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful lessons and lasting value to you.